We're doing fantastic, and I can tell you right now that we're looking to really weave some life into this broadcast today, aren't we, Kenobi?
I mean, I think we need the power of flowers to be able to call this one between Houston and Shock, because this is a matchup that, I mean, given all the ping issues and stuff like that with the Shock, hey, it's still a great group of 5 players against another great group of 5 players. And like the Dusk was saying, it's a matchup that is going to be so interesting because you would be pretty hard pressed to find a collection of 5 players like the one on the Houston Outlaws. But on the other side, when we're talking about the Shock, they've still got that man. They've still got Proper, and we've seen what he could do back in those qualifiers, that ability to just be that Michael Jordan, win fights, turn them on their head. If that is something that the San Francisco Shock can rely on, there is a chance. But I think the desk is right that there is a lot of that favorability towards Houston because they just look so strong right now.
Yeah, just really clean too as well in their overall methodology
100%.
on entering into fights. Also their long run mid fights, as we're going to be entering into our first map of Control, Lijiang Tower, where we have been able to see these teams play on this specifically, and really curious to see how it's going to unfold as we do go through this. And again, this is going to be first to 3, so we get those extra maps as well. Just like we saw moments ago where, you know, it ended on this map, we get to begin on this map, Kenobi.
And one of the interesting things about the Shock in particular is that we kind of have 2 versions of the Shock that we saw from the group stages. It was the Shock when Heesang was on Tracer, and then they were struggling, and then the Shock when Proper was on Tracer, and they started winning much more significantly. Junbin is going to be the starting tank as well. I know Danny was talking about the fact that they do have Max also in the back wings, but Finn in an interview was like, yeah, Junbin's the best ball, Max is the best Zarya, everything else is kind of equal. So it feels like they're just feeling it out right now. And on the other side, you've got Houston. They're tried and true, that dive. Winston, the cheat code that he is, as Fearless, is going to be something that the Outlaws are going to rely heavily on for creating that space.
And one of the interesting things is with Junbin coming out specifically on this Diva, what we've not seen previously, more so the Winston and the Doomfist on rare occasion, but as they enter, look to that flanking position. You have Proper rounding the outside, looking to see what's valuable, multiple angles that Shock's going to look to take to try and press onto this initial position, utilizing that center column. Big nade, at least to prevent that, so Finn has to digress back, easily taken by Outlaws, and looking really clean just to continue holding this.
Gonna have control at this point, but it's about the juggling right now between the San Francisco Shock. Can they find an opening here? Proper already finds one on the shoe. That's all the healing lost for Outlaws at this point, so this is a moment where Shock has the aggression.
Yep, and you're going to see with Violet attempting to stem the bleeding for now alone. Barrier out to mitigate that front-loaded damage, still continuing to generate some percentage, and Outlaws at this point are just looking to gain as much as possible and have to fall back.
And this is one of the scariest things about Shock is when they have these kind of moments before fights in the neutral where they're just poking you down, looking for those openings. And if there's anyone who you want to kind of have that opportunity to get into that backline, find those one clips, it is someone like Proper. So Houston Outlaws is going to have to be wary of where Proper is at all times. The San Francisco Shock are coming back into this. They have a coalescence relatively soon right now. And that's going to be Houston having to back off.
Big hack comes out by Heesang early onto Fearless, forcing the jump back, and Proper sets up the pulse bomb and easily takes them.
And San Francisco Shock, again, using that pulse bomb, able to win that fight just off the back of one of those, so they keep the coalescence. They're also going to have a Kitsune Rush off the back of it as well. And Houston Outlaws, I mean, they're at a point where they might have to brute force their way into these fights because the staging from Shock has been so good in the neutral so far. They haven't been able to set up the perfect way they wanted to.
Heesang, stealth in the back. Agile, looks for the nice hack onto Shu for the moment, but still playing reserve. Outlaws waiting to dive in onto this so they can get the advantage. Entering forward, sound barrier out. Violet gets the coverage necessary alongside the nano boost onto Fearless. Beautiful sleep for the moment to mitigate that defense matrix, so it's no longer available, but the Kitsune Rush plus 2 others, both Finn and Heesang, contributing their ult to make sure that they completely take this back as they're plus 65%.
And I'm loving the positioning as well from the Shock. You see that they're never clumped up. They're kind of just all over the place, not really giving Houston that out to just dive onto someone. And I think that's really smart from them to pick up the Moira alongside this, something we don't see a lot of, but Moira has Fade, and you can't just dive onto that Moira in the backline because they are just going to TP out. There's Kitsune, there's Suzu as well from Vindane. There's a lot that Shock have to negate the dive from the Outlaws.
And look at how aggressive Fearless is getting. They did force out some cooldowns so that there is value onto Finn. They had nothing else to utilize to survive through these raging fists, constantly causing pressure. Now gaining 2, they've swapped it back and will be able to look to a longer run control to try and get close enough to San Francisco.
And this is going to be a little bit of a safer position right now for the Outlaws, right? They have this staging potential now where they're going to be on point. They can cover some of those side angles a little bit better where Heesang and Proper can't just get into that back line. But the thing about this now is that Proper still does have that pulse bomb available to him. So you're going to be looking at Shu specifically to be able to be there with Suzu to help out one of his teammates because Proper has an incredibly high stick rate on pulse bomb and they're going to need that.
And you can already see Fearless recognizing as they transition down the stairway. Very, very intense damage onto Happy, forcing that translocate to regroup back. So many members are low. Shu goes down. The Suzu is eliminated. They don't have it in Proper. Can really look to get a stick. Manages to get it. Fearless goes down. This is an instant swap back, and Shock looks really good to finish this first round.
This should be a first-round take for the San Francisco Shock, and the way that they're playing, I mean, you could completely convince me that they weren't on ping, right? They look phenomenal right now. They are moving together as a unit. There seems like the comms are totally intact, and Outlaws really never got a foothold. They're trying to get back in. They do have a pulse bomb and an EMP, but Pelican is dead.
Yep, and with Pelican down, there's an EMP, though, to counteract this, getting quite a bit of value, but there's a Kitsune rush to re-enter into this, and within approaching that coalescence as well. Nice hack to draw it out. Can they get the elimination? The health bar continues to dwindle, but they activate it just in time. Looking to stick through this, pressing forward. Double doors are now being maintained by Shock, with Houston getting a beautiful pickup with the pulse bomb onto Finn, denying any further assistance. It's all on the shoulders of the Kiriko play, but it won't be able to hold for much longer as the Houston Outlaws swap it back.
I mean, that is an absolute caster curse on my end right there. There was no shot in hell that I thought that Shock were going to be able to lose that one, but Outlaws come back in. They have specifically that EMP from Happy, which blows up the entire point. Shock now on the other foot. They have an EMP of their own. Outlaws, though, do have a Kitsune Rush in their back pocket, so they are going to have that ability to weather the storm a little bit with another Suzu, but Heesang's looking for it.
EMP clips 3. Fearless. Both supports are instantaneously deleted upon entry. And now with only 10% to go, it's going to get swapped back, and they've got to rush to get here to keep it into the overtime, but they're being chipped away piece by piece. This overtime isn't going to last long as they continue to focus fire the remaining few of Outlaws, and Shock is in prime position to be able to guarantee this map of Night Market.
I'm not going to call it until it's over because I caster cursed already once, but here's the Kitsune Rush from Shu. I mean, they're still stalling as best they can here, Proper, though, looking for something potentially with a pulse bomb.
Yep, good look to get a decent stick. Sneaking around the back, but Happy is checking it quickly, has to force the translocate and the recall, both deviating away from this because they don't feel safe enough to continue that duel as the intensity rises. Pelican in the back goes for the pulse, but you have it more favorable to Proper, on to Fearless. Outlaws doing everything imaginable right now to keep this point. The triple EMP makes this even more challenging as Happy looks to challenge Heesang, and this just continues to go moment after moment. The longer this pursues, it will just instantaneously vanish in front of our eyes. It just needs to be Shock to force them off the point, Kenobi.
Oh, Happy is down. Finn coming back in with the Coalescence. This is a lot of healing that Outlaws has to deal with.
It's like deja vu with Finn managing to get the Coalescence again, but has to fade. Cross the center now, 99 to 99 into the overtime. This round one is absolutely amplified to show that there is a massive competition between these two. Support down, Violet eliminated. Shu, the only one now with all the weight on their shoulders to keep this going, but with an EMP to knock out Shu, that will guarantee that Chuck can take the numbers advantage, finalize this fight, swap it back, and deny this first round to Outlaws.
What an absolute bloodbath of a round we just witnessed, Rich. I mean, Violet's going to come back, gets punched in, but that's going to be Shock taking this first map, and I am really loving the Moira pick. I think that, like, we didn't see, like, any Moira, it felt like, throughout the entirety of the group stage, but I love the fact that, like, they know on the Shock, they're like, yeah, we're going to be fighting a lot in enclosed areas. We need some sort of defensive maneuver, and Fade is super good for that. I think it's something that is really, really smart thinking and macro-wise coming in from the Shock. They bring this to the table, and then now on top of that, if they bring out the Torbjorn, which I would love, again, starting to think about how to beat this Winston composition, because one of the things about the Outlaws is that we know how good their Winston composition is, right? We know that Fearless is a cheat code, but what do you do when you force them off that? That's where it looks a little bit scarier.
Well, and the other part, too, is this Fearless on every occasion could never really get Finn. There was only one specific occasion that once the Fade was down, that was the only optimal time to get it as they approach to this garden map to see who is going to get the better positioning and try and take it first.
See, Heesang gets a hack already, but Shu is isolated by themselves, and it's a perfect dive from the Shock. I mean, instantly, perfectly played. The dive, they see Shu is out of position, and then Vinde follows right up behind it. Really, really fantastically coordinated to start off from the Shock, who look like they are Like the 2 weeks that they had, Danny mentioned it on the desk. They've had a couple of weeks to work on it. This looks great from them. I am in love with how the Shock are playing this currently, and now Outlaws are going to come back in. They have the ability to start creating some space for themselves, but keep an eye on Heesang and where they're going to be to set up these stages.
Keeping a distance now. Shock in the back with the support, making sure they can round towards proper, keeping close. Aggression comes through. Pelican gets the follow-up onto Junbin, and there is a massive turnaround here, despite it instantly going in favor of Shock out the gate. Outlaws has been able to recover from this and manage to take it back.
And this is what I'd love to see Houston do a little bit more of, where it's like if San Francisco Shock are going to play a little bit slower, are going to play a little bit more split like that, then like go and try and find maybe the tank in Junbin, right? If Junbin doesn't have his cooldowns, you can get him. Switches now over to the D.Va, so offers a little bit more of that ability to stay alive, specifically with things like Defense Matrix against what Outlaws is bringing to the table. But you see San Francisco Shock coming back into this, Pulse Bomb almost available. EMP is going to be the big one from Heesang. Can he get it in time to deal with what the Outlaws are coming with?
Translocate early, they've lost Heesang in this exchange. Now aggressively moving forward, Outlaws waiting for the opportune time for Pelican to drop the pulse. Gets the pickup, doesn't even need it. The Kitsune rush, leaping forward, blitzing. But Shock, unfortunately, isn't managed to get at this cleanly. Outlaws really able to weather the storm here in this position. You even have Fearless committing the Primal Rage, able to completely deny anyone's presence on this consistent point.
Now the Outlaws are gonna, I mean, for them, that's like pretty much a good win for them in terms of the macro, right? Maybe you could argue that it was a little bit overzealous from Fearless to use that Primal Rage in that scenario, but you kind of just want to win the fight automatically in that way. You've kept Pulse Bomb, especially with Pelican. We know how good they are at the Tracer. Could be something that breaks this fight completely open before it starts, but I would expect your Shock to go with the EMP early.
Oh, Happy is not feeling too good with that one. Brought down right into spawn the second they're clipped by it, but Fearless and Violet still able to weather. Now with 70+%. Happy's going to make the adjustment onto the Sombra now to get back into this counteract against Heesang. The Coalescence being held onto as long as possible, not wanting to commit it into this so that they can swap it back and manage to do so with still a decent percent to go.
And that's really good from Finn because Finn knows that the sound barrier has already been used, so now they can save the Coalescence for potentially a rainy day whenever they would like to get a little bit more of that healing.
Now Defense Matrix. Oh, what a nice pickup onto Shu as well, but an even exchange, 1-for-1. Junbin getting very low, looking to swiftly dodge through a lot of the incoming fire. Gets the remake. It's been swapped that though by Outlaws, and now they're going to have to transition back onto this.
Shu hit an absolutely ridiculous nade. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but Proper comes in with two. The stick onto the shield actually got Violet somehow, some way, and now the Outlaws don't have their tank available to them. Pelican trying to stall as much as they can with Happy.
Yep, and now it's just, again, they swapped it back for a short amount of time, gaining ever so close to that completion of this round to make it a 1-1 scoreline entering into the third. 50% now being gained. A little bit of patience here from Outlaws before they go in.
They also have a huge macro advantage right now when it comes to their ultimate. Shock have nothing to deal with this coming onslaught.
And you can see Fearless going to jump forward, having that nano. Shu getting pressured in the back, but all the while on the front, you still see so much force from Fearless, chasing down the supports, going even more so after Finn in the back, knocking them off the edge, gets the elimination, rotates back to the point, just rounding the entire circumference of this point to keep this in their favor. But three are hit by the EMP, and it's San Francisco Shock still holding on to this and keeping tension onto Outlaws.
I mean, Junbin's here sitting here with 3 health. Can they get the heals available to them? Yes, they can. An orb is able to heal them. And here comes the Yofuda. Maybe they can get back into the mech in time.
Junbin doing everything they can to get back into it. They remech, so they are here to stay into the overtime. That's going to give them another lifeline, but it's 99 to the overtime. Violet with the sound barrier, giving that protection necessary as the Kitsune rush comes through the center, pressing through White Room, the tail end of it, and up top, Violet still looking to harass. The Boop is there, the reposition going for the Mega Pack as Fearless has to re-enter onto this so they can sustain through it. Pelican needs to hit Vader, but Junbin eats it. They deny any value that can come through as they've just lurked in the distance, and now with nothing left for an ultimate, it's all revolving around Outlaws and their cooldown usage to work through this, and they're actually managing to do it.
Oh, Junbin was so close towards that self-destruct to get that extra life, but it wasn't enough. A game of inches, and Outlaws should be able to close this one out. It is proper. We know how good they are, but they can only do so much. And Outlaws, on a map that I think really helps their composition, are able to take it. And now this is where we get into a little bit of silly area, Rich. This is where Control Center everything kind of goes out the window in terms of like what we've seen in the previous two maps, because this is much more enclosed. We've seen both of these teams run different things on this map in particular. We know that Shock sometimes like to run the Ramatra here, also the Doomfist, the Outlaws as well. They've seen or shown that Fearless can play, as we do get a replay here of this. Looks like a... I think this is coming back. Oh, he gets...
Yeah.
Oh, he hacks him out.
He denies with the coalescence. And
that's the danger play and
much
where.
value.
Yeah, the danger play and where.
Value. Because that would have looked very differently with it if you're able to at least get that full channel onto so many, but at this point you're seeing them maneuver towards White Room because they have to try and recover without it.
100% as we see the Shock going for the Ramatra Brawl composition, and Outlaws opting in for a little bit more of a divey disruption type with Fearless on this Doomfist, and so the Shock are going to have to be wary of where these punches are coming from. But there is the thing that the Shock have a lot of here is they do have the poked before the initiation, and they also have that ability to throw down that vortex from Junpin and make Fearless's life a little bit more difficult.
And proper offs to go onto the Cassidy here instead of what we saw with the Bastion previously, making sure that they are sticking to the tried and true and that they're confident with to bring with that front-loaded close encounter with the Ramatra. Though Fearless looking to still hold the ground and the line for the moment, getting a little bit flanked, but has a chance to fall back behind it. Happy gets a beautiful railgun onto Proper, and that's going to start leading heavily for Outlaws.
Happy's able to get two here, and this is one of the things that's going to be really good for Happy in a scenario like this, especially with how they were staging early on the Houston Outlaws side, is that Happy will get these off angles to work with and start charging up those rails and being able to get that damage done, because Sojourn is a hero that does require a lot of ramping up before you can really get the value out of them with those rail shots. So keep an eye on where Sojourn is going to be positioned throughout all of this, and if San Francisco Shock are going to make an effort to try and get onto Happy so that he can't just free fire.
And already just 20% away to the overclock as well to look for initial picks as Pelican resets the health pack, making sure that they can come back in when the recall is active. Happy actually gets an instant takedown onto Heesang, so that makes this extremely challenging for Shaw to be able to withstand any further damage and just challenge on the point.
And this is one of the things about Shock switching this composition now, is because we're in such an enclosed area, Winston has to try a little bit harder to kind of like get into these positions. You use jump in a very enclosed area, and you don't really have anything to block Happy now. Happy can sit on a sideline and be able to pump out that damage, but they're going directly after Shu, and they do manage to find it.
Yep, and being able to eliminate that, again, it's solely now the sound barrier that's going to give them an opportunity to turn this back. The Nano Boost gives extra potential and power for Fearless to play forward, and they're going to keep the 60+% and climbing.
And this feels like Shock really are kind of scared in this area. They don't really know what to do. You know, how do we get to Happy? How do we get to that back line? They're not really sure where they want to get these dives onto. And the peel is so good from the Houston Outlaws. Like, if you aren't decisive in your dive, you're not going to be able to get any kills. Yes, they took out Shu, but it cost them basically everything for him, and they lost the fight.
Happy, oh, early pickup makes this even, again, it's just constantly finding these supports in the back, and they're going to make quick work of it once again. This is just repeated play from Outlaws, and they're finding this foundation that's keeping them always ahead of the game.
90% ticking upwards right now for the Outlaws. They do have an overclock to work with, but Shock have some ultimates in their own right. EMP is going to be the big one, but they got to get someone to touch, and it looks like it's going to be Heesang here.
Heesang up top, waiting, guaranteeing the overtime. To see how they're going to enter into this. You can already see the Disruptor Shot going to deny any accessibility in that window with Kitsune Rush active, but the rail shots from the overclock could be devastating. EMP instantly shuts down 2 on entry, and now you can see Shock finally, for the first moment here, gaining some advantage.
Really good patience from Heesang there, in particular, waiting for that moment where Happy was in a position where you could just drop down, use that EMP, and Junbin could follow up with the rest of the team. I love that decision-making there from the San Francisco Shock, but they have a tall mountain to climb, and luckily they did win that just off the back of 2 ultimates, so they are going to have some ones to continue to milk this percentage upwards towards that 99% and get back to equality.
So many shots coming up.
Oh!
Fine. Nice job getting that. For now, Heesang knows that they have to be extremely careful. For a valuable hack onto Violet, gets it for now, looks to reposition. Primal Range active, gonna come out from Junbin, keeping them into the corner, buying even more time, gets the elimination onto Violet. They can't recover along the wall, and look at how far forward they're gonna play to try and punish.
Oh, Shu went down as well as another environmental kill from Junbin comes through, and this is what they need to do and continuously string these along, right? If they can continue to get these fights won in the early scenarios where they just use singular ultimates, that's really what they need to do to be able to get that percentage upwards and try and beat Houston Outlaws macro.
Oh, Hack with the flank, coming in a little bit off tempo there. Junbin couldn't find the full completion. A knock back, but still has the jump in time. Fearless chasing, locking them into the corner, continuing to melee and just shoot every bullet possible from that left fist into Junbin. And now with the Meteor Strike collapsing onto the supports into the backside,
big stick.
It's just, oh wow, Proper comes in swiftly to be able to turn this back around and give opportunity here for Shock, but they're down themselves.
Junbin is going to come back into this fight, so the tank advantage is here for the San Francisco Shock. Is that going to be enough, though? There's a lot of damage that the Houston Outlaws still have to deal with.
Yeah, and Fearless is swapping to the Winston to jump back in quickly. EMP hits. Junbin barely alive. The Suzu comes in just a beautifully timed towards the end of that to keep Junbin alive for a moment longer, but there's not enough healing for both Finn and Vendane to keep them going. San Francisco Shock, unfortunately, are falling to the wayside. They're crumbling under the pressure. They did beautifully to work together, as you said, that multiple fight after fight to keep them standing. But in the end of it all, we're going to have Outlaws be able to take this.
Outlaws take our first map much closer than I think a lot of us were expecting. I think the desk was already sweating after their brackets were busted earlier, and like there it was like a bit touch and go for a little bit between them, but Houston Outlaws do eventually win. It was really close though. I think the way that the Shock played, it's night and day compared to how they were 2 weeks ago. They look like they have completely revamped in how they're playing. As we look at some highlights here, he's saying, I think the way that they're coordinating on the Shock between the hacks and the dives is phenomenal from them, and they were able to really start these fights before the Houston Outlaws could figure out a way to get those dives in. But then at the very end, it felt like this, when we went to control center, it's a little bit more of a different composition. That's really where Houston kind of put their foot down and essentially said, no more of this, more stuff. We're not going to be able to fall for that.
Yeah, and being able to stage, even when we look at just out the gates from Gardens, there's those moments that they're able to just completely take control of this. They catch Shock off guard, unable to recover from it, and that's what we're going to look to try and see as we deviate away from this control map and seeing if their setup and this preparation and this extremely lucrative understanding, it's going to be fantastic to see how it unfolds. But Shock, like you mentioned, really being able to put up quite a front.
Yeah, and I think as we go into this next map, it's going to be interesting to see how the Shock are going to play around this composition, because it does feel like they have that blueprint, but can they execute it as we go through the rest of the series?
Yeah, and we'll be able to see after we head to a short break, so don't go anywhere because we're curious to see how this map 2 is going to unfold.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade up. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade up. Damage, then you gon' pay up.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade up. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Turn it way up. Turn it way up.
Crank that volume, turn it way up. Way up.
Shock, your 2020 Overwatch League champions.
San Francisco Shock, Proper!
Proper is a generational talent. He's going to be in this league for a long time.
Look at this guy. He's running down Bernard. Then he just charges the Sigma.
Completely uncontested, tearing through.
Coming on.
Gendo tried his best, but it's not gonna be enough. Finn is feeling himself. Look at him.
Shout, but only affects him. Rampage gonna catch on a two from Kellerman. Proper is there. Oh my. 여기 깔고 또.
Oh, I just get chills when I get to see those videos. Don't you, Kenobi? It's just
They're so good. They're
exciting
so
to
good.
see
I
them.
love them. I love them.
But you know what's also exciting is being able to go into Blizzard World right now. We're after a quite intensive battle between these two. Bloodbath is what you specifically said. That's an understatement from what I think we've seen. Now going on to this map specifically, really excited to see how it's going to unfold, as we're going to have Houston Outlaws on the attack first here to see what Shock can do defensively to be able to deny them progress.
And I wonder if this is going to follow the trend of like bringing back the double flex support. You know, that's something that we saw a lot in the group stages where it was like, you know, you had Ana Zen. We've seen Brig crop up a little bit more. Like Mayhem used it, and we barely saw like any Brig during the group stages. There was a lot of just like the double flex and Lucio a lot more of the time, but Brig seems to have risen in popularity a bit since we've been through that group stage. So I'll be interested to see how that works. It does work relatively well in terms of just being able to help your tracer. That's probably a big deal, but also pocket near your Ana, you know, being able to keep them alive, kind of. You don't have to play as split as you do with something like an Ana Zen. And on the offensive end for the Houston Outlaws, the best thing about this team is that the fact that they have Violet, who is not only a really good flex support player, but they're also a really good Lucio. So you never have to kind of make that decision whether I want to play in double flex or not. You just have someone who is such a Swiss Army knife that can do that at any time that they would like.
Well, and even calling back to the Brig aspect of it, it's allowing a lot of denial for that entry from Fearless. And you can even see Violet's going to actually opt into this as well.
We're seeing Brig mirror. I mean, I feel like we've gone into a time machine. Like, this is not what we saw in the group stages at all, but the thing that the Brig does is it does help allow a lot with that Tracer matchup, and you're right, it does do a good job, especially with Whipshot, at countering those dives.
Nice hack early up front, just going to buy some time here. Fearless waits for it to drop. Junbin underneath the awning.
Ooh.
What a massive takedown. It's like a blink of an eye, and Heesang is gone.
That might be a little bit of power of the Brig right there. The whip shot completely annihilates Heesang, and that's going to be Houston Outlaws now can take this space a little bit because they know the Sombra isn't there, so they have a little bit more free area to work with.
Ooh. Lot of damage coming out onto Proper as well. The closer they get to Violet with this Brig play, they have completely isolated Shock away from this control point. They've practically almost stripped it away from him, but now there is at least some contention by Junbin. But the moment they land onto the ground, it's an instant to EMAC. But there's at least a little bit of sight in the distance, a glimmer of light for Proper and Heesang to work in tandem now that they're back into the mix here and able to deny the rest of the players. It's still contested though, seeing if they can grab it.
Yeah, the supports are around, and specifically Vindame is still here, so there's going to be a lot of healing that's coming out, and Fearless is going to end up going down, and this defense that looked like it was completely collapsed after Heesang died so early, they're able to weather that storm. Again, a huge pulse bomb from Proper, taking down Violet, meaning that Brig isn't there, and it's all off the back of Shu's healing, and Shock just had such a healing advantage in that fight, and now EMP is available for both of these teams. The biggest thing, though, is that Vindame, because he's been alive, has gotten that ability to get the EMP, and you can see Heesang, they're looking for Violet here, they're looking for that backline.
A lot of pings. Committing into diving forward. They're going to spend quite a bit to do so. The Nano is at least onto Fearless for the moment. They've got the Primal. Fearless extremely low. They're just losing so much health at this point, and Shock's just completely comfortable.
And they know that they can't go in with without Violet. They need Violet to be there in these fights if they are going to get a little bit more brawly, so the EMP doesn't show up too hard in the kill feed, but they get that one kill, and they continue to move this defensive progression up. A minute and 30 seconds left for Houston Outlaws. They're coming up on a lot of key ultimates here, but Shocker moving first.
Oh, Nano onto Proper, looking to see what they can do. Oh, that's going to be a lovely sleep, though, for them to collapse onto to get this instant takedown. And now with Houston Outlaws having the numbers advantage, they'll be able to regroup, press forward, and just clean this up.
And I think this is a good idea from the Shock, trying to go a little bit early when you're at somewhat of a disadvantage, but that was Houston just smacking Shock with their wallets, and now they're going to be able to move forward into the secondary phase. The thing that's interesting is that we've seen this map so many times with the Zenyatta, so that long-range damage is a big deal, but now it's going to be a little bit more of that poking, a little bit more of that staging at the front, and then seeing, can we get onto that back line? Can we, help Proper, enable Pelican with our Brigitte so that they can be really the focus points of going forward, as Vindame actually switch over to the Kiriko, so this is a little bit more standard as to what we saw beforehand. Not as adept at, pocketing the Tracer, but still that long-range potential with the Kunai going to be something that Vindame is going to be known for.
Viable adjustment to contribute defensively as this payload continues to move off the street segment over towards the cafe. Proper just getting some chip damage in on the side until they can look for re-entry as Pelican rounds the outer side to find a flank onto the supports. And finally, you have Fearless diving up top by the Nexus. And what they can do, extremely spread for the moment. A pincer maneuver available up top, but Pelican actually continuing to maintain down below, keeping this payload pushed. Heesang still withstanding a lot of that incoming fire from Pelican and just keeping them alive. Ooh. And finally, there's at least a pickup onto Heesang, which can open the doorway for Outlaws.
Yeah, they're going after Finn right now. Finn is so low, gets healed back up by Vindame, and the nail comes out.
Full spots. There's a primal rage to say no thanks today, friend. I'm still living, and I'm gonna keep on just swinging these fists of death. Hack buys some time, no longer having the jump, but that's okay. Just gonna get the charge and electrify that in front of me.
It's a secondary point take here for the Houston Outlaws. Asleep onto Fearless. Fearless, you can see his Fearless, yeah. It's probably just like, I'm slept, help me. The smile eventually comes back, and now they're going to be able to move forward into this third phase here. Nano available for Shu, could just throw that directly onto the Winston, get Fearless that movement forward. But something we've also seen a lot of is throwing it onto Happy. The Cassidys get a lot of value being nanoed because of the fact that we're playing in such an enclosed area. They can do a lot of damage, and also that survivability from the nano helps a lot when Cassidys are maneuvering these fights.
And with these ultimates online for Shock defensively, you can see that Shu continues to look towards that angle to make sure that Proper doesn't come in from the flank unbeknownst. There, peek the corner, go in, EMP active, managing to take down Happy, which is critical to at least start taking a step in the right direction, but the nano boost onto Fearless, Hack still active to deny the jump for the moment as they continue to just pressure with this electric damage up front. Then Dame goes down. Shock defensively is having a really hard time stabilizing through all of this.
I mean, Houston feels like they're reading them like a book completely. Like, Houston knows exactly where the flanks are coming from. They're always setting up perfectly to be in a position where they don't just get completely dove on. They don't let Proper get into their back line, as Heesang gets translocated out again, and that's definitely something you don't want.
Yeah, and looking for a health pack and just to get topped up so they can re-enter into this fight. There is the Kitsune Rush, which Outlaws at this point are going to say, all right, we're going to tuck tail and run. No need to be here. Wait for it to drop and then come back in again. Proper getting harassed heavily by Pelican. Both having the pulse bomb and Proper still alive with 10.
I mean, they're going to need to get healed up here. Someone heal Proper. Oh, the nano. That's a good way to do it.
Yep, that's absolutely a good way to do it. Dart in the butt. Green means go as they pressure onto Happy. Can they get the takedown? The pulse bomb thrown. Damage radius just gets a little bit of damage as Junbin gets the follow-up. Self-destruct as well. The shield comes up, though. Violet denies the execution onto that second support. Is Proper still just holding position in the back and rounding the flank?
They're trying their best they can, but I mean, again, the way that the Houston Outlaws are reading a lot of these fights, they're not letting Proper finish these kills. The whip shots are perfect. There, a sticky grenade takes down Proper, and now Houston Outlaws feels like they have complete control of this game, and it looks like they'll be able to cap here, Rich.
Yeah, there's one last attempt that's going to be from Shock. They have the spawn advantage, but they really need to try and get focus fire onto Houston. That EMP is going to be massive. Heesang comes in with a win condition for them to deny back Outlaws, but because there's such a distance from Shu in the back and Violet recovering, the close proximity gives the inspired healing, and now an attempt with a Bionade on the counter side as Happy cleans up. Heesang goes in with a Deadeye, denies visibility. They hide behind it and nobody touches it in round one.
I mean, how many times is Shu just going to sleep a flanker that's on?
Yeah.
How many? Like, it's unreal to me, the fact that, like, the amount of skill checks you have to go through to dive onto this backline is insanity. It feels like no matter where they are, whether Violet's on, like, Brigitte, whether Violet's on Zen, whether, like, Shu is on Ana, the sleep darts, the discords, just the whip shots as well from Violet. I mean, we haven't seen Violet play Brigitte pretty much this entire group stage show, and he looks perfect on it. A lot, like, the amount of mental RAM it takes to be able to dive that backline is so hard, and Houston Outlaws are playing really well around that foundation of their double support line.
It's like an ace in the hole, and their synergy together has been impeccable, and that's what we're really loving to see, that the value of this Brigitte is actually yielding a ton of value, and again, looking to try and compete against it is something that you need Shock to be able to evolve through and adapt so that they can counteract it as we do tank the swap of sides defensively. Outlaws looking to come back in though. Violet not going to switch onto that Brig this time around, keeping the Kiriko so that they can utilize that for this defensive hold. And it's all up to Shock now to see if they can get just as offensive and being able to complete this.
As we see Shock, coming out of spawn eventually, I am going to be really interested to see how Heesang approach these fights, because at this point you do have to respect like how Shu is playing specifically, and there needs to be some sort of coordination, right? Heesang can't just go into the backline by himself and just get a hack, because he will get slept. You are at this point having to respect that, so it's going to be interesting to see how they coordinate that dive. And you can already see Happy. I love the positioning here, knowing exactly where everyone is and giving that information as a nice anti comes in. Finn, getting very low here, but gets healed back up.
Yeah, Vin Dame also getting extremely low as well, with just the traditional hack coming through. And it's Shu just lobbing a name all the way from the back. Once again, just putting so much onto their shoulders. But Finn gonna get a lot of ult charge from that, looking to withstand it. Heesang down below. You see this reposition. Fearless separated from the team, playing over towards the Snacks Rammus. With a flank angle, it is going to be so many players surrounding Fearless, and they need to be extremely cautious before taking this alternative high ground proper. Sticking close, though, now with the assistance from Junbin, they can put some decent aggression into this, but it's not going to be very clean. It is quite roundabout for the moment until they can utilize their cooldowns to get the more advantageous angle onto Outlaws. But they're, again, this mid-fight and these long-run engagements, they're so coordinated, Kenobi.
And it was an absolutely perfect nade from Shu as well. Just like hits the backline, gets onto Vin Dame, and Vin Dame, when he's antied, he just dies. And you can see, I mean, they're already moving back over towards the Kiriko, because they know that if Shu is going to be in a position to continuously lob these grenades for free, they can't survive on Brig. And they've given up quite a bit of ultimate charge for that. And the Houston Outlaws, Happy knows exactly where this translocator is. Are they going to kind of bait this one out? They're waiting patiently to see if that's a possibility.
Also approaching the EMP to utilize. Happy's just gonna chill. We'll just get rid of it. Let's go back. Let's just go back with the rest of the team. Kenobi.
I mean, I think they were waiting for Heesang, but now Heesang shows themselves. And they don't have translocator actually, but they're gonna use it defensively to get out. But they're cooked. They're completely cooked.
Yeah, Heesang attempted to get out, but unfortunately the jump is there from Fearless. You had the nano contributed onto Violet. Shu goes down despite the engagement. 2 minutes on the clock now for Shock to be able to still attack onto this, but Outlaws once again drawing back this ebb and flow and understanding the methodology behind Shock. Some consistent pressure forward. There is the Kitsune rush, and Violet can't survive. Junbin continues to just knock them about and will look for a roundabout way to get back to the point to keep contention here so that you have Shock guaranteeing this take.
Oh, the EMP, but Fearless is able to use that Primal Rage. Oh, no! Oh, Rich, is it?
Do we want to? Nah. Hey, C9. Yeah, I know our production's singing that in the background. We all know that. For you in the chat, you should probably be doing it too.
That's really unfortunate that they managed to C9 that one. But I mean, San Francisco Shock for their, they get an extra life right now. Junbin had a really good primal in their own right, but Houston Outlaws probably kicking themselves if they couldn't buy back into that one as Happy comes in. EMP at the ready.
Does get, well, that's bye, sent back to spawn. Pelican gets the tank down as there is some great attention to recover onto Pelican, but gets topped up, forcing the recall. They're just going to be able to make sure that they are stable to hold into this archway, and not feeling too bad about that one.
These dives are so crispy from the Outlaws, and even during that fight, you can see that Proper is going into the backline, like trying to cause some sort of thing to like help out in any way that they possibly can. As Heesang actually gets blasted by Violet. That was a solo bolo from Violet right there. Again, you cannot just walk up to someone the caliber of Violet and just try and raw hack them like that. They will take your head off.
And you can see Finn at this point abandoning ship, saying, "I'm not going to stay up here. I ain't going to buy nothing from that little merch shop." It doesn't matter how many thrall hammers are there. With this regroup, they'll just look to fall back, hold the archway. Again, it's like deja vu for them, with Proper in the back now, looking to maybe go in an engagement, waiting for those cooldowns to come up, though, from Junbin to engage onto this and coordinate in communication, but still hesitant before doing so.
And look how far like Proper is playing back. You can see that there's not really like they're not with the team at the entire time. They always seem to be just trying to flank into that back line, but they do have the pulse bomb ready and available. Violet is gonna challenge Proper. Oh wait, they're dead actually, they might be.
Wow, both Junbin and Proper threading the needle right now. Junbin finally goes down as we do see this Proper engagement on the back to Violet, and Violet gets it even. Saying, all right, I'm out, salute.
Violet's cooking. He knows what's up as Finn was trying to be there, but Finn actually might just go down themselves as well here. The Fade is going to be available to get them out in that situation, but Houston Outlaws now are going to try and probably reset, get back onto this card as here comes the Kitsune Rush.
Yep, cross the payload into the corner, so there is a chance to still utilize it as they work through that doorway. Fearless eliminating the support play once again. Finn with Coalescence will be holding on to this, and at this point, with 1 minute and 45 seconds, Shock on the attack have to look for another decent regroup to get potentially these 2 more engagements.
This is kind of what I think Zoe was talking about on the desk, where it's like this is a little bit of like that discombobulation, not really moving together as a unit as the San Francisco Shock. They do have a treasure trove of ultimates to work here, but there is on the other side Houston Outlaws holding their own EMP as, oh, we're doing the game of chicken again. Translocator is out, and wait, he just comes. What? Happy just translocates and able to get a kill.
Big value out the gate, but Happy punished after their forward momentum. Pelican now topped up, looking for the heal. It's now 60 seconds to go. Pelican not going to be able to do too much as the hack is still there. Looks for a kind wave and recalls to get out with still a sliver of health, trying to play the health packs, but goes down.
Flew a little bit too close to the sun there, did Pelican, but they will be back in time as San Francisco Shock now can set up this dive here as Fearless actually goes first with Happy, and they're on to Finn. Finn fades out, though. That was really, really close. That could have been the end of the map right there.
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary now. Getting hit by the grenade as well, making Finn have to play even more cognizant before re-entering in onto this. The Coalescence, Junbin goes down. Violet comes in with a melee so that there is no tank available. Bolt supports the EMP now from Heesang, gets some value onto 3, but there's no one to follow up onto it to eliminate those 3. 20 seconds to go. Pulse bomb holstered for the moment. Pelican needs to find something here defensively to deny this push. They want to be able to make this a 2-0 map score as there's one last chance for Shock.
I mean, Shock have used so much already. They just have both their support ultimates available to them. Outlaws don't have a ton in their own right, but there's still so much ground that San Francisco Shock has to cover just to cap second.
Happy gonna take that wide angle in the back. Here comes the dive. They're coming in as 3. Dropping from that catwalk up top, forces out the translocate. Heesang no longer in this fight for the moment. But now, Pelican from on high, looking to drop the pulse bomb, waiting patiently to see where their prime target is, collapsing onto Finn, who is still available, and holding on to the support ultimate to contribute now with the Kitsune Rush. They need to work their way these last few meters to the checkpoint to keep their hopes alive in this map. And up top, Fearless diving back. Happy's eliminated and has been, but can finally regain composure into this map as they rush back to give assistance. Shu surprisingly stays alive. Beautiful assistance by Violet in the back line, just under 5 meters. They need to keep it contested. Down below, the overtime almost dwindles again. It's a constant teeter-totter. The seesaw continues, but they hold contention on it.
I mean, Shu got bullied that entire fight, and finally they were able to take him down, and that's one of the things I'd like to see Shock do a little bit more, is kind of get into that backline as a unit. You saw Junbin was there, you saw Proper was there, you saw Heesang was there, all at the same time, and really overload the Houston Outlaws with their supports, because that's, if you let those supports just stay there and go 1v1 the entire time, they're going to beat you at the... Where's Pelican? Pelican's far back.
Yeah, Pelican's coming in like a mile
away.
away.
A freshman, I think.
They needed a coffee. They had to go to the cafe. They needed to get it from the pylon. As now you come back in, though, you're caffeined up and energized to get back into this with 50 seconds to go. Fearless eliminating Proper is going to once again stifle this push forward from Shock, and they find themselves in this final fight territory once again.
Shock do have that EMP to work with, though, from Heesang. Heesang's going to be looking for potentially getting into that backline. If they can kill Shu before the nano boost goes off, that would be best case scenario, but Shu is positioned so well right now.
EMP hits 2. Pelican is just sent to Kingdom Come. His body lays amongst the rubble within this final stretch. Fearless with a primal rage does not want to use it just yet, holds it for the moment as they look to peek this corner.
Waiting patiently as San Francisco Shock. Proper pulse bomb at the ready, available to them. We know how good they are at hitting these pulse bombs in that backline. Violet, though, has been playing out of their mind so far as Proper's looking for it.
Big dive, nice hack, everything falls in suit. So they eliminate Shu, the one that we've been highlighting multiple times over the course of this map, and everything they've contributed. Violet with that Kitsune Rush now no longer available, gets picked up Junbin with the Diva dives in. The boosters are active. Fearless looking to just continue causing disruption and knocking them away. But the Coalescence has the throughput. They're sticking in the midst of it. They've only got 3 to work with. The overtime is active. They need to complete this, but the spawn advantage is in favor of the Outlaws.
Pelican waiting patiently with the pulse bomb available to them. Shock need desperations right now. They don't have anything to work with though, and Vindame is hacked. They can't get. They are not taken down just yet.
Oh, there's a Bionade to land, but you do have the fade. Finn down below. Pelican chasing it, looks for the stick and gets it. There's no way that Finn can escape it. Blows them up once again. And now, Pelican rounding this back position, chipping away at the health values of Shock. Junbin demeched. It's only the remaining 3. He's saying can't withstand it, and that is going to be the Houston Outlaws able to deny this map 2 from Shock and put themselves now on a match point.
Houston weather a late storm from the San Francisco Shock, but in the end, they are able to hold on, and boy howdy, are those supports at Houston Outlaws really, really good. Like, just in general, like, the ability that they have to have those perfectly timed Suzus, be able to win 1v1s against DPS, the likes of, like, Proper, right? Like, we're talking about very, very capable DPS on the other end. I mean, look at this. Like, that's a Nano Tracer instantly done. There's no way back into this fight for the San Francisco Shock. Like, they are playing at such a high level right now. And again, it's not only just their mechanical skill, but the fact that they can have Violet switch onto every single thing. It feels like he's a Swiss Army knife, can play the Lucio, brings a Brig out at the, randomly here as we're in the playoffs. Like, there's so much that this Houston Outlaw support line offers, and that's even before you add on the rest of the pieces, like the best Winston to ever play the game, like Pelican, like Happy. Like, this is a team that has a really good chance. I mean, all the devs thought that they're going to win the entire thing. They, not even just the Pro-Am, we could talk about Overwatch League as a whole.
Absolutely. And with them having such versatility and depth of hero availability, it really is something that we're going to see if Shock can be able to manage. But we're going to be able to get into that next map shortly as we head to a short break, so don't go anywhere. So we're going to look to see you on the other side.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Turn it way up. Turn it way up.
Crank that volume, turn it way up. Way up.
Shock, your 2020 Overwatch League champions.
San Francisco Shocks,
Proper is a generational talent. He's going to be in this league for a long time.
Look at this guy. He's running down Bernard. Then he just charges the Sigma.
Completely uncontested, tearing through.
Coming on.
Gindo tried his best, but it's not gonna be enough. Finn is feeling himself. Look at him.
Shot, but only affects him. Rampage gonna catch on a two from Kellen, but Proper is there. Oh my. 여기 깔고 또.
We're back, friends, and we are here to see if it's going to be a quick 3-0, even though it's been quite competitive, or there is potentially some excitement like we had in our previous match where it went the distance. Kenobi, we've got some changes, though, coming up for this next map, especially because we're looking to deviate away heading to Escort specifically.
And this is also one of like the first times that we've seen both these teams on Escort, right? I mean, now that we are, we went from first to twos, now we're in first to threes, and we're seeing some changes. Max is going to be subbed in. Obviously, as we've seen previously on the Escort map so far, off tanks kind of reign supreme, especially that Sigma. So we can look at Gargoyle coming in for the first time here. And, people may not remember Gargoyle from a while back when they were on the floor of Mayhem, but they were one of the best Sigmas that we had in Overwatch League, and I think that this is a great addition to the Houston Outlaws because now it makes them a little bit meta-proof, it feels like, where it's like, beforehand, you could have been like, oh yeah, if we get Fearless on like a non-monkey meta, maybe we'll be okay. Now it's like, oh, there's Gargoyle here as well. What are we going to do now? Because the rest of the pieces seem like they're meta-proof anyways.
Yeah, you're covering your bases and making sure that there aren't any large fissures that you find yourself falling into and regretting your steps. As we do look to see Houston Outlaws on the attack first as we evaluate the defensive prowess that's going to come out from Shock. We do see Proper, though, coming out on this Widowmaker, and I'm just as excited as you are, and I'm pretty sure chat's going to be keeping a watchful eye onto this duel.
I really hope that Happy stays on the Widowmaker, too.
Me too.
That's going to be a hell of a matchup to look out for. I mean, Proper, I think we can't sing their praises enough as a player, but they are only one player, right? Widowmaker does offer kind of that like potential to just take over a lobby, especially when you're on the defensive end and you do have a little bit of an advantage, but Happy's no slouch in their own right. So this is going to be something that as we go into this matchup, the Widowmaker duel is going to be important, but also one of the things to look out for is that Heesang is going to be on the Echo instead of the Tracer. So there isn't necessarily that Tracer v Tracer marking that we see a lot of the time. It's going to be more of like, can Pelican get into these off angles and pressure out Heesang or Proper to make Happy's job a little bit easier because they are on that offensive Widowmaker.
And there's always this surprise factor when it comes to the Widow duel, just seeing who can get the better angle. Nice swift shift of the shield. That was so close. Ooh, Van, you were getting real scary.
Like a phantom, the Reaper was literally above him in that moment where he turned.
Yep, the scythe, you feel the cold chill of the steel across the neck. As they now have still some decent positioning. Happy playing a little aggressive here. There is Heesang to respond. Oh. What a shot, Proper gets it. There we go. That's what we were waiting for.
Yeah, Proper was holding that angle. I mean, it was good scouting by Heesang, being in that position, giving that intel over to Proper, who, again, you can see Pelican trying to go on the sides here, but Vindane is positioned really well in this area as well, where they can still throw packs, but they're also just kind of a stalwart defender for anyone to flank and try and get to Proper.
Heesang still trying to use the architecture to the best of their ability. Proper just waiting. Just lurking in the distance to see if they backpedal a little bit further than they should. Pelican, though, takes the stairways up, while Heesang still harasses, getting a lot of that tri-shot damage onto the back line. Focusing beam, Suzu mitigates before it's completed, since they get that extra damage below 50%, but still gonna find it, while Max on the front line doesn't work.
Now, Max is able to, has actually just been doing a lot in terms of just winning that frontline battle as well. Gargoyle has not been able to keep up with just Max specifically on this D.Va, and that's hurting the frontline battle because, again, when you're on the defensive end Happy, okay, again, Happy is just, on second point.
Narnia.
You talked about a surprise factor, Rich.
Yeah.
Methinks that they're not really ready for Happy being all the way back on second.
I just hear the Pink Panther sound in the background for Happy, as we do see on the front line, though. Are they going to look for it? Going to put the Venom Mine there? But again, on the face value of what the front line has in store, Gargoyle finally getting some momentum to counteract what Max has been able to do consistently, as you have now this Pulse Bomb eliminating one onto the support. And this is finally an opportunity for Outlaws to be able to gain some distance in near this checkpoint.
Proper was able to take out Pelican, but Proper most likely ends up going down here. Nice follow from Gargoyle, but actually the peel is not bad from Heesang, and Proper somehow through all of that is able to take down Happy. Excuse me. They end up going down to Shu, but that might be enough, especially with Shock and the respawns that they have. They can hold this for a little bit longer now with the rest of the team back.
The trades consistently with a minute to work with these few meters left. Max sticking close and utilizing the payload to block some of the sightline, as they can just give space here. They feel really calm, cool, and collective until this team gets back together from Outlaws.
Just gotta make sure that there's no C9 shenanigans right here as Max is holding this point. Sights are available for Proper here, so they know where everyone is, but the Kitsune is just gonna come in from Violet. They want to go aggressive.
Yep, Proper now going to reposition, looking for a flanking angle, finding those long sight lines. Nobody's ready for it, has complete vision and gets the shot onto Shu, completely bamboozling them in the back, but unfortunately can't counteract the Pelican play with the assist and the layup from Violet in the back. 40 seconds now still to go. Pelican up top, feeling absolutely on top of the world right now. Just needs to clean up the last few, but there's too few members from Outlaws to actually regroup on this.
No, I mean, Violet was still there, but with Shu going down, there was just not enough healing that Houston Outlaws could use to break through. As the stick comes through from Pelican, doesn't manage to find pay dirt. The nano from Finn onto Vindane keeps them alive, and they can continue to hold this foothold as Proper gets another onto Pelican.
This is disastrous for Outlaws. They lose that harassment in the back. Pelican no longer able to chip away, causing distraction and draw attention away. Heesang now with the duplicate, able to get a lot of applied pressure. It's a double diva onslaught into the corner, forcing back the Outlaws. The overtime is active. They only had 2 meters left to go. They've finally been able to remove Heesang from this duplication, but the time continues to dwindle, and this is going to get even more intense for Shock to hold. But Outlaws, they really can't recover from this.
Oh, Heesang getting so much work done, ends up going down, but trades out for Happy, and Proper is just sitting pretty right now, looking over this payload. It's a shooting gallery for them, and the full hold will come through as the Shock give themselves a lifeline back into the series.
Yeah, they really do. And now we will take the swap of sides. This is quite a monument for them to have to look to, because there is really not that much distance that they have to cover to be able to take this map and at least put something on the board here. But Shock feeling much more confident here. They've really been able to utilize Proper, especially on those significant picks. You had that takedown onto the Tracer. Outlaws at that point just looking at each other like, all right, like we gotta, that's it. Like we're in real bad spot.
The one where Proper gets dove and then he just takes down Happy, like I want to see like what happened there, because that would look like there was no way on earth Proper from the position it looked like he was in could get that kill. But that's just how magical of a player they was. I do want to give a lot of credit to Heesang, because a lot of the focus did go on to Proper, but Heesang in terms of just raw damage and just being able to stifle kind of the dives or the flanking positions, as we do see a replay from Proper.
Oh,
just finds him. Happy is very close to that.
Happy's like, I'm gonna get you, and then Proper's just like, nope, I got 2 awards under my name. Don't you be checking me. I can't win MVP.
I can't win MVP.
As I said, two-time award winner. Can't just do it. Even Proper's having a good chuckle out of it as well, as we look to take the swap of sides.
Oh man, I mean, that's like real recognizing real, it feels like right there, where he's like, Happy's just like, you know what, you got me in that one. You got me. I bow my head to you.
I tip my hat to you.
We're not going to be seeing the Widowmakers here. We're going to be seeing a Tracer duel, or Tracer battle from Pelican and from Proper this time. He's saying sticking on towards this Echo. It is going to be a lot scarier now, and I think they might go switch because of the fact that, like, if you're playing Echo into Tracer Sombra Diva, it's suffering. You just get hacked once and you're probably dead. So they're going to match the Sombra now this time. And again, Finn opting for this Moira. It feels like this is a pick that Shock are really liking just because of that peel potential that you do get from Fade.
And we've seen significant value with it too. Everyone has continued to try and find Finn, but because of that elusiveness and just the ability to escape those really critical moments has helped out Shock tremendously. With Violet now playing in the back, sticking close here to Happy. The dive comes in, mitigated though, nice hack to cause Outlaws to play a little bit more defensively here, since there has been a lot of pressure applied.
I mean, you can see the Houston Outlaws, they're just in this area trying their best to shoot from afar as hack does come on to Gargoyle, so Gargoyle might have to be forced out a little bit here in this moment, but we're just a lot of posturing happening right now. You can see Finn is trying to caught between two mines, diving with Proper sometimes and trying to go back and heal the rest of their team because there is a lot of the healing output as Violet just rails Heesang.
Yeah, that's absolutely necessary for them to look for the last 2.5 minutes, but a nice pulse from Proper gets rid of Violet, no longer having that in their back pocket with the extra healing, and also the Discord playing elevated. Gargoyle causing distance between them so they can buy some extra time so Violet can get back into this as the payload still being halted around this corner. What a bio nade as well, landing onto 3. The Suzu gets 2, Finn goes down, and they just can't even contribute the Coalescence into this to try and sustain an Outlaws hold and stem the bleeding.
Oh, Gargoyle needs to get back in mech here. They will be able to do so with the Harmony on them, and San Francisco Shock will have to reset here. 2 minutes left in their time bank. It is a little bit of a scary time for them at the current moment. As you can see, Pelican looking on the flank, seeing if they can find something with that pulse bomb. A lot of ultimates coming in from the San Francisco Shock into this next fight, but there is that Transcendence from Violet that's going to be available. But they're just going to go and try and dive onto Violet, but the peel is so good from the Outlaws.
Well, and Gargoyle even gets hacked at the moment at half health. Really can't manage to sustain this. Transcendence forced out. Violet going to top everybody up as the Kitsune rush from that high ground position dissipates. Now, Shock with 1 minute and 37 seconds has only a short distance. They've reached more than half to try and take this, and the EMP up top to try and counter. Happy gets detection, and they have to fall back.
Well, they got to fall back here. They're waiting patiently. A lot of the ultimates that were going to keep Houston alive are out as Violet's going to go down here. EMP.
Yep, Violet was so low, and that was wonderfully communicated between the team to get to Shu so close in proximity. Guarantees that they can get both of them. Now with just over 60 seconds, they can push this final few meters, and they don't have a full squad for Outlaws.
They're trying their best. They have to stall here if you're Outlaws as best as you can. Pelican has a pulse bomb available to them. Can they find a miracle pulse somehow, some way during this fight?
It has to be massive. Looking to play towards the health pack. Heesang is translocated. That's a massive boon for them. Gets the stick. Does it? Ooh, the DMAC actually comes through. It was just enough damage, so now they look to follow up onto Max before they can get back into the mech, chipping away at damage, so they can bring that back into the mix with the defense matrix. And now, under 2 meters, 40 seconds, Pelican harassing up top, and they've been able to withstand a lot from Shock in these final few moments, and are still continuing to round this payload.
The Nano comes out onto Gargoyle. That's a lot of incoming damage, but can Houston even find these kills? Finn goes down. A lot of healing has been lost for the Shock now.
Gargoyle boosting through that side corridor. Max is left alone in the outside. They lose the self-destruct, and you are gaining distance back. Outlaws have once again held this. They might just be able to do this here in these final few seconds. Shock.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, they can come back into it. Nice hack. Gargoyle down below, does have the self-destruct, can't quite do anything just yet until that finally falls off. Mitigation with the defense matrix, Kitsune rushes there, self-destruct onto the point, under 1 meter. It's desperate times for desperate measures. You've got the pulse moving forward. It's going to be so many of Outlaw low on the defense. Pelican and Gargoyle happy nowhere to be found. The overtime continuing to be active, but there is only 0.2 meters and a miraculous turn of events here by San Francisco Shock to not be dropped out yet.
Shock had zero business winning that fight, it felt like. But the fact that they killed Happy 2% away from EMP, if Happy is in that fight and EMP goes off, that fight looks completely different. But that's one of the things about the San Francisco Shock team that is so incredible is during these mid-fights, if they can get to this position where it is a little bit scrappy, it is not as standard Overwatch from the neutral as we like to see, they thrive in those situations. You saw Proper off the back end. You've seen what Proper could do previously when fights have a bit, devolved a little bit into kind of this chaos. Shock are so good in those moments because they have such a mechanical skill advantage to themselves, and Shock give themselves another lifeline in this series, but they're going to have to be playing on the back end for a little bit more because the maps are all going to be in favor of the Houston Outlaws going forward.
Resilience indeed, and just their morale, being able to start at least some kind of momentum to take these next few maps. It's a long road ahead of them to be able to do so, but at this point we can see that they have managed to weather a horrendous storm because things continue to get extremely risky, and with what Proper was doing specifically to stifle a lot of the opportunities and moments just like these to deny Happy from really contributing value, the adjustment swapping onto the Sombra and how they coordinated in these dive types of mechanics alongside to be able to take the advantage. And again, even talking about Finn and what they bring to the table with this Moira, and it's actually doing still a decent amount of value.
I think this is one of those moments where it's like, if you're a team playing against the Shock, you're like, we kind of have to give this one over to Proper. Like, that's always going to be one. It feels like there's always going to be one map where Proper just says, hey, guys, we're winning this one. I don't care how well you're playing. I'm proper. I'm one of the best players around, and I'm going to be able to take our team through a victory here. And not to say that the rest of the team didn't play well, but Proper's Widowmaker, especially on that defense, was a real talking point about their win specifically on that map.
It really was, and as we've said so much about Proper, even recognized from the opposing side, they truly are the ace in the hole. So we're going to go to a short break before we get this next game underway, so don't go anywhere, my friends.
The San Francisco Shock, your 2020 Overwatch League champions.
San Francisco Shock, Proper!
Proper is a generational talent. He's going to be in this league for a long time.
Look at this guy. He's running down Bernard. Then he just charges the Sigma.
Completely uncontested, tearing through.
Coming on.
Gindo tried his best, but it's not gonna be enough. Finn is feeling himself. Look at him.
Shot, but only affects him. Rampage gonna catch on a two from Kellerman, but Proper is there. Oh my. 여기 깔고 또.
Greetings, friends, as we are here to talk a little bit about the direction that we might be going, Kenobi. This could be like what we had in our last series, as we can dive a little bit further into some swaps and some surprisingly lack thereof swaps for these teams.
Yeah, Junbin will be making their return to the roster, but the interesting thing is that Gargoyle is going to be sticking it out here on our next map, which is interesting because like Gargoyle feels very much like that player that is there to play, you know, Escort, definitely, because Escort kind of favors a lot of those off tanks, but staying in here is interesting because we are going to Esperanza, and that's going to be a Winston map. So I'm interested to see what they have planned as we do take a look at Proper for his stats. I mean, this is from, I believe, on Rialto as Widowmaker, and 8 limbs, 0 deaths. What more could you ask for from a player?
Yeah. Not putting in a great... At this point, do we just, like, somehow frame up the 2 trophies, like, in the cam? Like, the player
cam?
Like, just so... Like, if any... Ooh, what if we made them, like, shoulder pads? Like, what if we made them, like, armored shoulder pads?
Do you know how hard it is to cast this? Like, it's so hard, because you're just, like, you can think of, like, anything that you want. It's like, oh, the setups are perfect. The way that the enemy team is playing, so perfect. They're playing so well. And then instantly, like... bam, Proper just kills 3 people, and you're just like, okay, well, everything that I've been doing and everything that I've been casting so far has just gone completely out the window. It makes not only the enemy team's job very difficult, but our job difficult, because we could think that we have an idea of how the cast is going to be going and how the fight's going to be going, and then Proper just will do Proper things as they inevitably feel like they do.
Yeah, you've been properly shut down. That's just what continues to happen.
We have to have puns here always with
we really do.
Just,
we absolutely do. It's either puns and food. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I'm curious.
We're going to Esperanza, and there's a lot of bakeries in that.
We're gonna fly in somewhere, and if Prod doesn't manage to do that for us, you know, we'll just have to, you know, talk about it on another.
We know it exists. That's enough for us. We know it does.
That's all that matters. But yes, going into this one, you know, the push aspect of it, it was interesting to see the outcome when it came to escorts. Since again, we didn't get to see that when it came to these 2 previous weeks, and you know, Shock able to pick a map that they were able to work very efficiently on. It was extremely tight between the 2 of them, and now moving into this push map, it's going to be interesting, like you had mentioned, and what Gargoyle is going to contribute to this, because with this map specifically, we talk a lot about when it comes to your positioning, especially where you maneuver that barricade with the bot, because there are those significant staging points that you like to take it to so that you can utilize the high ground, the catwalks, the different doorways, the channels, denying your opponent from finding the best avenues to take you down. And realistically, it's going to come down to a lot of that type of understanding of map structural foundations.
And I wonder if that's just kind of a thing where they're just like the D.Va can supplement a little bit like how the Winston is played, and like that's like what Gargoyle is going to be in there for. Maybe they have an idea of like Esperanza specifically on how to do that one, but I do believe we have some more stats coming up here for you as we're just filling time a little bit, just making sure that we, you know, get all of our ducks in a row before we go forward. And I think that it will be interesting to see a little bit about how we saw the matchup between Max and Gargoyle, now Junbin versus Gargoyle, because Junbin is a little bit more of that main tank specialist, more so than anything. Yes, I think they can both play pretty much anything in their kit, but it is going to be interesting to see how that dynamic changes if we see Junbin on the Winston rather than Max versus Gargoyle on a D.Va mirror.
Yeah, and it's those subtle differences, and we almost kind of want to put a little bit of pressure onto Gargoyle, but at the same time, they've been able to show some extremely quality play, and being able to bring that onto this map of Esperanza is going to be really helpful for us to better understand what their, you know, overall contribution is to the team and why they feel confident in doing so, because we have consistently seen Fearless do a wonderful job. There's only a couple of occasions that we saw previously in the weeks prior that were a little problematic upon certain entries and some disconnects in how the dive went through, but ultimately it's still been very foolproof nonetheless.
I definitely agree there, and when I see a map like this and I'm like, okay, there isn't going to be Fearless's Winston, that's really where I like the Fearless part of it is the part that like I'm really thinking about, because he is so good at like that hero and is the tip of the spear in a lot of what the Houston Outlaws want to do. But they, you know, they know better than me. I'm just in Diamond. So like, you know, the Gargoyle being here, they definitely have a reason for him being in this spot. I think D.Va is probably what we're going to be seeing from Gargoyle more so than anything else. And it could be a decent counter to like a Winston, right? It does give that ability to sit in the Winston's face and not really have that pressure continuously put upon you in terms of that posturing. But as the Outlaws come out, it looks like we are going to be seeing Gargoyle on that D.Va. In San Francisco Shock, I don't think much to your chagrin, Rich, that we will be seeing Orisa anytime soon. It is going to be the Winston.
I can only hope.
Yeah. I mean,
But that's not going to be the case. One day.
She'll get nerfed, or buffed. Not nerfed. She's been nerfed.
I was going to say, I'm like, please don't do that to me anymore. I already feel sad as it is. But as we do have these two convene towards this initial point of contention, we do see how they're going to play that stairway and back avenue and alleyway channel to get some initial poke and prodding with Heesang onto the Hanzo to look for a couple of decent shots on the bridgeway and a couple of shots as well as a Bionade landing from Finn.
Yeah, and one of the things about the difference between the Hanzo and the Cassidy is that Cassidy has a little bit more of that front-loaded tank-busting damage, whereas the one-shot potential from Heesang is going to be something the Houston Outlaws have to respect here, especially since they don't have a Winston and they don't have that ability to put a bubble down and keep the rest of the team safe. They have to respect these oncoming shots coming in from Heesang.
And you can see this reservation from Outlaws maneuvering around this initial position, not wanting to get overwhelmed, finding a decent channel to approach that bridgeway, which is being very well held, but a nice couple of decent nades landing from Shu to force back away from this high ground. Heesang can't quite feel as comfortable getting those shots any longer since this bot continues to push forward, and even having the Diva underneath from Gargoyle.
It's a race to the nanos right now because Finn and Shu are very close towards them, and whoever gets it first could be the difference maker on how these next fights go.
Proper also near that pulse bomb, gets a lot of damage on the flank, but unfortunately doesn't get the execution onto Pelican. Looks for another attempt, and these kills start coming in for Shock. The nano boost as well. Finn able to activate onto Junbin, getting so much electricity onto the opponent. It forces them back, approaching this primal rage. They take the fight, they'll take the distance, and they take the lead.
And I love how patiently they played that, because really one of the things about this composition is that the Diva can, posture a little bit more quickly in terms of just a Winston, where it's just like go in once and you're in. They played around the around the center tower. They used the map geometry exceptionally well, and then when they found their first pick, they went in immediately. I think that was really well done from Shock, who now have control of this high ground, and now Outlaws have to kind of play a game where it's like, how do we get up to force them off here? And it looks like they're going to try rotations.
Ooh, Shu so low, at least gets the nano boost out. Happy being knocked away on a flying carpet, but still gets an angle onto Proper, keeping a fixation onto them to deny any assistance, and this is going to be Outlaws taking that engagement.
No shot Proper thought that he was anywhere near that high noon. That was just Junbin, unfortunately, delivering that one to Proper, as the Houston Outlaws will come back, will get a bot of their own, get high ground as well, and at this point it's really scary as well, because you can see how impactful antis are in enclosed areas like this. So be looking on the lookout for Shu to throw one of these nades and see if they can get it onto those backline members so the dive can come in from Gargoyle.
Pelican gets the stick, instant takedown onto both, mind you. They're so close together, they can't separate in time, and that's quick work for Outlaws to push this even further, and could be in a position to actually get the checkpoint.
Sometimes that's all you need. Pelican sees the angle, gets onto that backline, and because there's nothing like a Suzu or anything like that, it's just a very easy pick from them. And also, one of the things that the Diva offers, I think, as well, that we have to talk about is that ability to eat that pulse bomb. Proper has to play a little bit more carefully in his pulse bomb usage because of the fact that Gargoyle can be there at any time and eat it.
Nice boop to knock back Junbin on the engagement. But unfortunately, Heesang's gonna get a nice pick onto Violet, who I'm pretty sure didn't see a couple of dragons flying in the back of him.
I think that was Pelican and Violet just like seeing Heesang cut by themselves, and they're just like, oh, hey, let's go ahead and dive this guy. And then Heesang's like, I have dragons, like, what are you gonna do? You're walking into my maw, and he takes them out. And an aggressive play from the Houston Outlaws comes back to bite them a little, because now San Francisco Shock can come back into this. They have their support ultimates available to them as well in this next fight. So really, San Francisco Shock is in the driver's seat right now.
Be ideal to deny this checkpoint with consistent touches. Pelicans doing the best that they can to do so. With only a meter left, they unfortunately can't do so. So the checkpoint has been reached. All of San Francisco is going to digress back. They know that they can leave this time and maintain this bridgeway before anything can happen again. But the dive with a nano boost, instantly able to get some assistance onto the back line, but that's a 1-for-1 trade. Pelican down, but Finn being more critical. Finn Dame with that sound barrier allows some sustainability here to try and regroup, but Heesang looks for the pickups, even though Stuck still alive.
Oh, but I mean, it's so close in terms of the meterage right now, and here comes the high noon, or not the high noon, the self-destruct coming in from Gargoyle. Gets nothing, and they won't be able to remix, so this should be Shock finally getting that advantage, which they do at the very end. Pelican, though, trying to fight it back, but if you're Shock, you've already won. You have the lead at this point.
And you can continue to recede back, making sure you hold that archway and that stairway proper. Gonna just look for a great cleanup onto Pelican. Slept, and once again, we have to give major credit to these Ana players because it has been stellar from both fronts.
Yeah, these backlines are absolutely unreal. I'd love to see at the end of this, like going back and looking through the stats, the sleep dart percentage hit from both of these Ana players, because it has been such an impactful part of this series so far, as the Houston Outlaws do have a high noon to work with to be able to push back San Francisco Shock a little bit, but they are behind the 8 ball, the Outlaws, in terms of that meterage.
Happy, almost eliminated. Well, there's a swap. Uno reverse, as I've heard Leg Day say on a couple of occasions, managing to turn it back. 1-for-1 trade, though. You lose the Deadeye so that they cannot use that for a zoning mechanism. Playing this corner, and Shock still looking to get a decent amount of distance, but have finally been stifled.
Shu hit 2 unreal antis during that entire fight. Like the first one where he just hits it onto the backline. Yes, the backline doesn't necessarily die, but they're not there to help Junbin while he's in primal rage. So Junbin goes in super deep, but doesn't have the pocket from their supports available to them to get back out and get out safely. And then Shu hits another one off the back end. Shu has been incredible so far this entire series. We talk about these flex supports a lot, and there the anti-nades get a ton of value to help out Houston Outlaws winning that fight, as both support ultimates available here for the Outlaws. Dragon doesn't get anything. Oh, actually, finds Pelican somehow.
It divides them, and Pelican, unfortunately, still within the radius, gets eliminated, and there is at least some trade here. The fact that you do get value onto this as well. Vindame having to try and recover back quickly to the rest of the group. Happy, now covered, gets the Deadeye to pump some damage out, but no takedowns. This is still Houston Outlaws able to recover because of those critical picks.
Proper did not expect that one coming in from Happy, who is still alive here and is getting pocketed pretty well by the rest of the team. Maybe Happy can hold this position, but with Pelican down, it's going to make it a lot harder.
Yep, and they got to go back to this neutral position. Once again, looking for a full regroup. There is still time for them to do so, and Shock still feel in a great position because they know they have the advantage by at least 40+ meters.
They also have a huge advantage when it comes to that sound barrier. Vindave is going to have theirs, so if they want on the Shock's end, they can just tempo sound barrier and take all of the space for free. And I think Houston Outlaws are knowing that they are at a position where they have to retreat, but they can't give up the space for free. That's the biggest problem right now with the Outlaws.
Junbin just going to fall back too. The second you see anything from Outlaws playing forward, they can just dive out of this and allow them to go back in. Sound barrier leans in. You have Shock taking the aggression to Outlaws. They can't recover from it. Asleep onto Happy, denies the damage, and then instantly gets picked up. Proper finds the window and completely takes advantage of it. And once again, you have Shock in the driver's seat to deny Outlaws.
Oh, and this is so smart what Proper is doing here, trying to just take the bot away. Even if this fight somehow miraculously doesn't end up going Shock's way, the bot is already moving, and they're already thinking from a macro level, how much more advantage can we get? Outlaws, 2 minutes left for them. Shu is down with the shot from Heesang, and the Outlaws are looking on the back ropes completely right now. Luckily, they can come back in. They have a self-destruct from Gargoyle to be able to give them that second life. They also have a pulse bomb from Pelican, and he's hit one already, a big one in this map. Can he do it again?
San Francisco Shock want to see this map 5. It's a deja vu moment from our previous game. Dragon Strike once again causes a division. Gargoyle no longer having that self-destruct on the high ground, gets picked up before they're able to remech. So now this is even more distance gained by Shock with only 1 minute and 30 seconds to go.
The ultimates hit no pay dirt from the Houston Outlaws. You can see they've even made a just swap over to the Sombra just to try and negate a little bit these dives coming in from Junbin, or just negate Proper a little bit. And San Francisco Shock are sitting pretty at this current moment. 3 ultimates in their bank to walk forward. The Outlaws only have the nano boost available to them. Happy needs to find a way at some point before this map is over to get this EMP and have it hit pay dirt.
And the most challenging part of this is Shock doesn't even have to play to the rest of this choke point. They can sit back, hold these angles, and allow Outlaws to pressure into them. There is some opportunity to get these couple of picks to the right-hand side, but now Junbin with more disruption. The primal rage is there. They're approaching even more with not only this nano boost, but the sound barrier to contribute into it. Junbin, though, can't get topped up quick enough because they put the nano boost onto Heesang, but it's now only 45 seconds to go. Outlaws scrambling to take this fight, and again, even if Shock lose, they have more than enough time to gain their bearings, get back to their defensive position, and look to hold again.
Outlaws have also used everything, Rich. They don't have a single ultimate besides Pelican's Pulse Bomb left in their bank, and this is going to be the last fight that they're going to get. And if you're the Shock, you know you have an advantage with the Sound Barrier. Violet is making a Desert swap over to the Baptiste just to give them that immortality field, give them a little bit more healing, and potentially bring them back and weather the storm of what the Shock is going to bring to them in terms of this next ultimate fight that we're going to be having.
Top. Shock once again in a dominant position, maintaining this bridgeway. Hacked in the back.
Oh!
And Dame goes down, and a Bionade lands on 2 additional Finn, and Heesen can't withstand it. That's the first of many fights that you're going to need to see from Outlaws to be able to take this away.
And now they know for sure that there is going to be that Sound Barrier on the other side. Junbin actually trades down Gargoyle. That's a big pick. That means that there's no tank available here for the Houston Outlaws, and with Junbin getting out and surviving, that's a tank advantage for the Shock.
And the timing is going to be not favorable. They didn't get to it close enough for the closer spawn. Happy down below. They take down Junbin, though, who's left vulnerable among the rest. And this now gives an opportunity. Yeah.
Super greedy from Junbin. He has no respect for the Sombra that could potentially be there. He dives onto the cart just to try and get it before that checkpoint, and he just instantly dies. And now Houston Outlaws, they've been given an extra life back into this one. Yes, the Shock still have some ultimates, but look at the ultimates now of the Outlaws. They've come back into equality.
Happy barely gets out just in time, but the translocate looks to reposition once again so that they can get the stealth to harass Proper. Looking for the pulse bomb. The immortality field is gone. Violet's eliminated. The Outlaws now are only with few remaining. That nano boost can't give enough for Pelican to carry the remaining 3. It will be Shock able to hold on this. There's an EMP again, a desperate play, but there's far too many dead. There's no damage to turn this around, and San Francisco Shock able to take this and bring it into a map 5.
Another map 5, one after the other. I mean, it feels like the first map was close, and then we had a little bit more of that Houston Outlaws, and then the third map was way closer as well. Not really, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Rialto was pretty much favored in terms of the Shock, but now we're going to a map 5, which is, and I gotta ask, you know, where's Fearless? Where is Fearless in this area? Because Fearless hasn't been here for 2 maps, and they've lost.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, even just looking at the bigger picture here, too, how this is going to unfold, and it's the mentality that you have to be thinking of, because this is a single elimination factor that if you lose this, you go home. The reverse sweep is right in their sights, and the tension is really starting to increase for this squad.
Yeah, the next map is going to be incredibly important, especially because of the fact that wherever we go to, like, do we see Gargoyle still? Do we see Fearless come back into this? Because we have to remember that this is do or die. It's single elim. This is one last map for the entirety of the rest of the bracket for these 2 teams.
And we'll be able to complete that 5th and final map here just after this break, so don't go anywhere, because I think we're all itching to see who takes it. Hello, hello, hello. As we enter back into our map 5 between these two, like I said, deja vu moment as we get some great intel while we were on the break. We're actually going to be seeing Fearless return into the roster so that they can actually regain some composure from what they've had in these unfortunate last 2 maps, Kenobi.
Yeah, no more Where's Waldo-esque shenanigans. We found Fearless. Fearless has gotten back into the lineup, which is, I would say, good for the Outlaws because basically through the history of the series, Fearless has looked incredible as they usually do on the Winston. Gargoyle has come in. It's not like the Diva has like looked bad or anything, but it's more that the Shock kind of have a better way of dealing with that than like the kind of dwarfness of a player that Fearless is on Winston. So as we go into our next map of Oasis, makes sense that, you know, Fearless is here. It is a very Winston-centric map. As we start things off, though, this is a map that'll be interesting because this tends to me to be more of that map where we see like the more enclosed compositions, right? The Brawl, the Ramatras, things like that. So maybe Shock have something up their sleeve here because this doesn't necessarily favor too much Outlaws playstyle on a map like this.
Yeah, and we've seen all the other varieties of control. We've seen Antarctic Peninsula, we've seen Nepal, Ilios, Lijiang Tower, but now we get to enter onto Oasis as we enter into this quarterfinals lower segment. Game 3, as we will see who is able to move on and who is unfortunately going to be sent home, packing, wishing that the outcome would have been different.
As we start things off, we have to remember again, this is map 5. Last chance for both of these teams here to go further in the bracket, get in the money, get into that Final Four as Houston Outlaws coming in on this rotation, going up to the top right. But the thing that's different about this is that they use the TP, so Fearless hasn't had to jump yet, so he still has that in his back pocket. And actually the Shock have to give up completely this high ground away because of that.
Yeah, they want to respect this, knowing the intensity of this control map. Everything is on the line here, and to be able to get this early lead into the round 1 is a lot more formidable for them in the long haul. Heesang still looking to get a couple of decent shots. Again, can really get that one-shot, one-hit potential over Happy. Heesang looking quickly for Pelican in the back, who rounds the corner. Can't quite land the shots necessary to get that damage thrown out as heavily as they would like. And as they pressure in, Happy goes for the follow-up, can't get proper. It is a all-around maneuver as Pelican finally gets the first elimination, and Finn is going to fall alongside Junbin.
That's a little bit of the duality of the Hanzo in a situation like this, where it's like when you're on the Casti, you offer just a little bit more of that constant pressure, and Heesang is essentially reliant on finding some picks with a headshot, with anything, and you can actually see San Francisco Shock completely changing their composition up, bringing in that Diva on Junbin to counter a little bit Fearless, and Heesang going over to that Sombra to make the dive a little bit easier onto the Houston Outlaws.
They're respecting, once again, Houston Outlaws drawing back. They know that they can give this space for the moment until they want to re-engage this. Nade lands onto Happy for now. Hack as well. Shu needs to be extremely careful, but gets hit by the pulse bomb and can't recover. Pelican now having a pulse bomb of their own, approaching soon. Finn even trades, but this is still Shock able to take the advantage, denying Outlaws for the moment, but there is a beautiful recovery, especially with Fearless sticking close by to Happy.
I mean, this is one of the things Houston Outlaws do so well is, yes, Shock get like a really good pick to start things off, but wait, hold on.
What?
Happy's dead? They were really trying to stagger, and Happy just got caught a little bit with their pants down. I think they know. But again, when that initial fight happened, Shock had to use literally everything to dive onto that backline. And Houston Outlaws, yes, they lost their support, but they were like, cool, calm, and collected. We know we have an advantage when it comes to our resources, so that way we can turn the fight in our favor. And they have a treasure trove of ultimates to work with here that Shock don't.
Nano, active, Fearless, boosted, diving in, climbing towards the Primal Rage, and the elimination instantly onto Van Dame makes this extremely dominant with only 25% really to go.
And we've only had like 3 fights, it's felt like, and that's just one fight win off of a nano boost. They're able to win that one. So now when San Francisco Shock come back with their ultimates, they're still in good position when it comes to that macro play, but Shock have to probably throw everything into this fight with Pelican.
Tick, tick, boom! They're outside of the radius though. Finn survives, but there is a Primal Rage chasing him down, eludes the dart. Junbin on the flank though, managing to get one. The trades come in, favoring Shock. Pushing onto this point, overtime active, Outlaws digressing back, retreating to regroup. They give up this point, but they have a massive amount of time to recover and swap this back.
Luckily, though, for the Shock, they did win that fight off the back of just the EMP, which is great for them in this scenario because that's something that they're going to need to be able to come back into this because it is last fight territory for them for the rest of this series, or for the rest of this sub-map, rather. They know that they have to continue to rotate these ultimates effectively to beat Houston.
Oh, what a Bione in the land, drawing them back, giving space. Ooh. Oh, that was close. Close for comfort. And now, diving in, Junbin and Finn, though, getting absolutely obliterated on this front side. The self-destruct going to see if it gets anything, but it's instantly covered by a shield. Fearless perfectly placed that, and now they bring it into the overtime. There's a takedown onto Happy, but at this point, there's still far too many players from Outlaws. There's actually a regroup since they drew back, and the numbers are going to work in their favor, and even Junbin swaps onto the Wrecking Ball to give extra assistance.
Yeah, Junbin on their patented Wrecking Ball here. They're actually managing to find Violet in this scenario. That means the healers aren't here for Houston Outlaws just yet. Finally, it's going to be Shu coming back in with these nades and with the Ana healing, but Junbin is going to be a force to be reckoned with their hack.
Oh, this is so devastating. You basically neutered Junbin as they have to regroup in the back, looking for that recovery with the health packs that's generated quickly. Proper now getting a shutdown again, keeping it contested. They've taken it back, and they've once again weathered a miraculous onslaught from Outlaws.
I don't know if they can keep it up, though. There's only these few last members available to the San Francisco Shock, and they don't have anything to work with. There's going to be a pulse bomb. Happy so close to EMP. Proper manages to take them down, though. Fearless has to make something happen with a Primal Rage here.
There it is. Gets the pickup onto Finn, who had the bio land, so they were unable to gain any healing and assistance, and there's so much riding on the shoulders of that. And Fearless just taking full control of this. Despite being hit by the EMP, they swap it back. They're eliminating Junbin in that center positioning. There's an EMP, but you know, it's okay. We've already got it. No worries. Finn now with a desperate touch. It's not going to last long, though. This is now just throwing bodies, the corpses of Shock onto this point so that they can buy more time. And even with the opportunity of Junbin switching with that Wrecking Ball, can't get back fast enough. This is just a matter of time unless there's some sort of miraculous recovery now that they've gotten 3 more to assist.
I mean, maybe they can keep Junbin alive, but he ends up going down. Finn is coming back soon with Coalescence, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Vindame down, Heesang down, that's going to be that, and it's a little bit scary, a moment for the Houston Outlaws, but they are able to take that one at the very end. That one Violet sound barrier where he sound barriered at like 20 health, and I was like, this is 100% an Ajax coming, but I think actually Fearless had dropped a bubble on top of him to keep him alive because that was a very, very scary situation that could have completely turned the entirety of that fight.
Yeah, I think both you and I and everybody watching at home had all a moment of heart skipping a beat. Just as that beat finally came through, as we do now enter in onto this next sub-map to see if Houston Outlaws, in this moment, are able to take it 2-0 so that they can continue moving on through this bracket, or Shock looking to bring it to round 3 and be able to find the advantage over their opponent.
And now how I wonder it's going to look when Heesang is already on the Sombra to start things off. You can control some of these health packs, and also it makes Fearless's life a little bit more difficult as he is going to be diving in and has to be worried about the threat of a hack at all times.
Happy up top, going to be able to get some free fire until they drop down, but the dive comes in so quickly by Shock that Happy's not really there to give any assistance in the close engagement, and there is a massive outplay for the moment that Outlaws were really not ready, but Pelican still doing some decent work until finally they've been faltered.
That was on a knife's edge for a bit because Shock did not have healers during that entire fight in Outlaws. It could have gone either way in a scenario like that. The point still hasn't flipped over yet, so positioning isn't really an advantage for either of these teams just yet until Junbin comes back into this fight, and now they can start to set up their staging in terms of being on this defensive end. Heesang can flank basically anywhere they want and try and find Pelican specifically. It looks like that's what they're doing. They're trying to check Pelican along with Proper to make Pelican's life absolutely miserable.
And you can see Shu having to keep such a watchful eye onto Pelican to recover that health. Regrouping now for Outlaws to push back in. Shock on the high ground, waiting to see the entry from Fearless. They've already committed the jump, but the bubble hasn't been placed just yet. Great Bionade defensively to sustain through the dive that comes in from Shock. Overwhelmed and Happy gets the shutdown onto Heesang, and this after a very scary engagement, leaving them slightly vulnerable. Houston Outlaws recover with the regroup from Fearless after diving forward and isolate them in the back.
Proper is still alive, trying to do the best that they can. There is a Kiriko teleport maybe available to come through. No, it's not going to be able to get in time. Proper will end up going down, and that's going to be Houston Outlaws starting to take up a percentage of their own. It is interesting to me that we are seeing Finn specifically on the Kiriko. It feels like we've seen a lot of Kiriko kind of falling off a little bit, but if the goal of the Shock is to just dive Shu in the backline or dive Violet, having a Kiriko with you makes that dive even more lethal.
Hee-Sang and Proper alongside one another, EMP mid-air and gets popped. Proper with a triple kill and just taking the entirety of that high ground positioning.
That's the wonders of Sombra right there, right? Where you see that there's just this little Ana kind of by themselves trying to go to the high ground, instantly EMP'd, and the dive is perfectly from them. And as we're going to see Proper with this 3K, I think he just gets like a bunch of kills at the very end of it. Yeah, you know.
Yep.
Kill secures, we'll call them, you know? Kill secures, we'll call them.
Just the suplex from the top rope all the way down, hitting 3. You know, feeling really good about that one. Because now it's already 60+%. Pulse Bomb lands. Fearless commits, or correction, Junbin commits that Primal Rage to counteract against it. But still, Shock able to take this and dominate once again, despite it being instantly swapped for a brief, small percentages. Fearless is just going to buy time with the Primal Rage, but it is a numbers dominance for Shock as they even commit this Kitsune Rush.
I mean, Outlaws actually are committing to this too. As the Sound Barrier comes down from Vindime, Outlaws still have control of this point. They're trying desperately to keep taking that point as much as they can, but maybe it's a little bit too much overcommitting because now they'll have nothing for the rest of this.
Extremely overzealous. Pelican really being the only one that's close to the next, and that's still a tall order to ask. Happy with that EMP can be a win condition here, but yes, you are absolutely correct. Committing those 3 was really substantial.
I mean, they are lucky that Happy is going to be able to have EMP because that is just one ultimate fight win, but they did commit a lot to just get maybe 20% more. And with where the Shock are right now, we're in last fight territory, and Hee-Sang is not necessarily that far behind in terms of EMP, and look at the Shock go.
Yeah, they're throttling. They want to try and catch them off guard as Shock looks to recover. Proper in the back, continuing to put damage into Shu, but there is an even trade. Finn goes down, solely reliant on the Lucios now. The mobility and the AoE healing, it's approaching that final moments with Proper gaining the health pack and looking to go back into this. They did get some detection, attempting to find where Happy is, knowing that they've got this EMP available for the final fight. It's looking to be swapped over. Outlaws will look to activate it, gaining 1, but Pelican gets Hee-Sang deleting it in the moment. They could look to swap this back if they can just continue to find value in the backside. The Suzu from Finn manages to buy them a few more seconds, Kenobi.
The Sombra isn't in this fight just right now. They will be back eventually. Pelican getting extremely low. Proper's looking for the kill. Violet is down.
Junbin stuck, gets blown to bits for the moment with the assistance of Happy up close in proximity. Now, they are looking for ultimates to try and switch this back. Detected for the time being. Overtime is still being countered as there is a nice EMP to shut down Pelican. It is back and forth, blood pumping. Outlaws want to end it here, but San Francisco Shock says no, we are still here, we are still breathing, and we want to take this into a round 3.
That was so smart as the Kitsune Rush is committed, and that's going to be it. So smart from Hee-Sang there. He waits until Pelican uses recall. As soon as that recall comes through, instantly EMP, the rest of the Shock, Hive Mind, dive onto Pelican. The fight is completely over at that point. What a play from the Shock, who take us to, I bet not a lot of people were thinking about this at the start of the series. We are on the last sub-map possible. Yep. We've gone the absolute distance with both of these teams. And this is going to be a map where I wondered, like, do we see Outlaws come out on Sombra first? Like, do we see them switch to that Sombra? Yeah. Because Hee-Sang is getting so much value. I cannot understate how good Hee-Sang, when he's on this Sombra, is playing along with the rest of the dive from the San Francisco Shock. They are overwhelming the Houston Outlaws, and the Houston Outlaws need, like, a stopgap to be able to stop this tempo.
They have to plant their feet and make sure that they maintain a foundation of what they had earlier in these 2 maps. They came out strong. They dominated over Shock, and miraculously Shock is able to bolster their morale to bring them into a position like this, and Junbin gets a shutdown onto Pelican instantly again on entry. This is a disaster to start out here for Outlaws. They need to attempt to recover, but they are locked in this small corridor with a flanking position by Proper as well, bamboozling them, and Outlaws have to flee.
I mean, I have no idea how Pelican ended up dying there, but that's a pick that the San Francisco Shock need to continue to move this forward. They do have control of this point right now, but the health bars are a little bit low. Junbin, can they survive?
Junbin is so low. Finn as well. There's just far too much damage being spread across Shock. Outlaws are able to recover from this. When they dive back in, they didn't use nearly as much out the gate, and they are able to swap it away from Shock.
And that's one of the dangers of the Kiriko now. After all of the nerfs that she's had, yes, she's so good at diving, but the healing output is just not there compared to something like an Ana. That meant that Houston Outlaws had a very small window where they could go in, and they executed perfectly onto it. Now, the dive has to come back in from the Shock. You see Hisang on the flank. They're looking for Shu, but Shu is positioned extremely well here to negate that dive.
Now, Junbin again getting an instant pick out the gate, just unleashing Junbin onto Outlaws. 2 in the kill feed and just looking for blood.
I mean, these dives are so crispy from the Shock. I'm thinking about like how this is perfectly positioned from Shu. He's so far away, and somehow Junbin and Vindame and Finn all just collapse onto that Ana. And the thing about it is they're not even hacking the Ana. They're hacking the person in front of the Ana, so that way they know that they can just get one singular kill and turn the fight completely on its head. EMP from Hisang comes in, doesn't get anyone.
No, they don't. Nobody is hacked out by that. But Junbin still able to get pickup onto Shu. Happy, covered by Violet, but the Nano doesn't get anything either.
Trading back and forth between both of these teams. EMP doesn't get any value. Shu has actually gone over to the Kiriko just to try and give a little bit of self-preservation because the Ana has been constantly getting dove. As now we see another dive in. Kitsune Rush committed from the Shock.
That's going to amplify so much here for Shock as there is an attention back to the point. They're trying to divert attention, and it's actually working. Fearless in the flanking angle with those raging fists. Hacked for the moment until they can get it back online. Diving onto Proper, electrifying them to force them out. It is Outlaws still in this position to take it back, but there has been a massive percentage gain here for Shock.
Able to flip, which is the biggest thing right there. 73% for the Shock. Not quite that last fight territory, but we are getting close. Outlaws have to play this pretty perfectly from here on out, and you can look at Hisang going towards that back line, seeing what they can find. It's not as easy as killing the Ana, but there comes the hack. A beautiful move from Violet to stop that.
So clean. Junbin has gained multiple attempts on this with massive value and success, and that denial is huge as we do see now a boop from Van Dame down below, but health value is getting critical. Junbin eliminated. Great stick coming out from Happy to guarantee it, but the pulse bomb is just out of range. They can't quite get Fearless, still holding on for dear life as Shu swings by. Proper gets the flank, finds the angle, gets the two-piece, and is now going blood crazed to want to swip this back.
He's going to be able to clean this fight up. Outlaws actually have to retreat here with 71%. They are trying to just get as much percentage as they can here, but they need to get out. They can't continue to contest this. They don't have the resources, and finally will swap over and Rich. It's deadly time right now for the Outlaws. Hisang is holding on to EMP. There's a Kitsune Rush with it. If this EMP hits that backline, it's over.
Bull hit is the damage there. Can they get the pickup? Violet is down. The sound barrier is not available. Shu needs to get value with this Kitsune Rush. That's the saving grace for this opportunity with only 9% left. Shock is in the driver's seat.
They're waiting. Let me look. Pelican is getting so low. Forced to recall. Outlaws supports will be back in time with their ultimates.
Proper now looking to chase down Shu, keeping Pelican alive. The Kitsune Rush, that's what they've been waiting for. Happy gets the takedown. Hisang eliminated, but Finn contributes their own, and there's going to be Junbin going down before they're able to do anything in recovery. Houston Outlaws now have a chance to swap it back, but Shock will get one last attempt here to take this.
And I wonder if Finn is going to be kicking himself for using that Kitsune Rush. There was just an onslaught that the Kitsune Rush was not going to help. And if you would have had that for this last fight, Outlaws wouldn't have anything to deal with it. And now the shoe is on the other foot. Outlaws Happy, EMP at the ready. Can the Outlaws dive onto that backline in time? Happy's looking for it, seeing if they can find that backline. They know they want to get Finn and Vindame here.
Dame playing the high ground angle along the wall. Happy, patient, looks for the standard hack, gets the damage onto it, wants to maintain. They get the pickup, and now it's going to be the EMP, but nobody's actually clipped by it. Pelican comes in, gets the pickup. Houston Outlaws are actually able to shut down San Francisco Shock. San Francisco Shock were in a massive and beautiful position to take this, bringing it all the way to the final map, but unfortunately under the pressure they buckle, and Outlaws are ready to ante up and move into the semifinals.
Outlaws put the brooms away. No brooms here, no reverse sweep for us. It was an absolute battle that these two titans of Overwatch went through, but in the end, at the very end, who else but Shu and Violet take down Proper, who was coming at them with Pulse Bomb. What an unreal series that was between these two teams. Not a lot of people expected it to be that close, but man, at the end there, it felt like it could have gone either way on a complete knife's edge.
And it's those subtle micro moments that make the difference here. You saw Shock wanting to push with that hashtag winnable, but unfortunately fall short in those final instances with just the miraculous play that we've seen. You can see the score down below, all the distance that has been gained. And Houston Outlaws, I think they felt a little bit too close for comfort and how significantly tight those margins were for them to take that win, Kenobi.
I think what is it? The word is like the rumors about the demise of the San Francisco Shock have been greatly exaggerated. This team, bro, there were some of those maps, even that last one where they brought in Fearless back, like Shock was on one. If you ever get this team in a meta where they are like clicking on all cylinders, those dives were perfect. But I think at the very end, even that one where you saw where like Junbin's trying to dive onto the backline with Heesang and Violet immediately right there, you know, with the boop, like that backline is a insane foundation for this Houston Outlaws team that they can rely on through the rest of this bracket and going into the Overwatch League.
And we talk a lot about players, but we have to talk about one specifically, which is going to be Pelican for the player of the match. Unbelievable performance. We saw this push and pull from both squads, but Pelican elevating themselves among the rest. And we're going to get a beautiful highlight reel of everything that we were able to see from this performing.
Rookie of the year for a reason. I mean, this guy continues to perform, especially on Tracer, something that they weren't necessarily known for. You know, the Echo was like kind of the thing that really brought Pelican into fruition as like one of these best players. But these plays from him in these clutch moments, getting these double sticks like that, Pelican really did perform insanely well this series, and I think that they deserve a lot of credit. But Shock made him sweat, man, made him sweat, and that team is still going to be very good going in to our Overwatch League. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing them for the rest of this bracket, but man, they gave us a show to go out.
They really, really did. And we can just take a look at the stats as well for Pelican and what they've been able to contribute into this. Just beautiful standings. Again, just the per 10 minutes, their score line across the board is miraculous to see.
I mean, also the deaths as well. Like the low deaths is actually pretty incredible. The fact that he's like living through a lot of these moments and like not getting caught off guard, not getting one clipped by Proper, like that helps a lot in terms of like how Houston Outlaws want to be playing. You want to have someone who kind of knows their limits, right? It's like you're not going in and dying a lot in terms of this. Like 3.5 out of 10 is like pretty good, right? So you're not like giving your life for that. You're playing your life, and you are still like being impactful in terms of like that damage and stuff.
And now we have been able to see a conclusion to this bottom half, but there is still one more match that we have coming up shortly. But before we even get into that, we have to head it on down to the desk so that they can get their words about this, because I guarantee you they're probably sitting on the edge of their seats just like we were. So don't go anywhere to hear a word from them.
Hello, welcome back to the Watchpoint Game Break. Zoe here, joined by Danny and Nekra. By the way, Nekra thinks that I would win a physical alteration against Costa, and she gives me a fighting chance against Johnny if I play dirty. Bet. There you have it.
So he's gonna throw sand in his face.
Actually true. I have zero honor. Who does have honor though is our teams, and they fought like with everything they got.
Yeah.
This one went the distance, and quite frankly, this is a completely different San Francisco Shock than what we saw during the group stages. They certainly have cleaned up their act, and Houston Outlaws. There are some Houston moments again, as we are very used from that franchise, but in the end, they scraped it out.
Yeah, this was a really, really great match to watch between these two teams. You know, I think one of the things I really want to point out here is actually the Moira choice coming through from Finn. We didn't see it find a lot of success, but we did see it absolutely have value in a lot of the cases that we ended up seeing the Finn Moira work. It was to be able to have a little bit more survivability, maybe have a hero that was a little bit more ping friendly, but also when you're playing in tandem with this diva coming in from Max or the rest of the dive, you're playing in these close quarters that those orbs can kind of just bounce around and also be able to heal up the team or do damage whatever poison you have chosen for your team. But I think overall though, this series really delivered, and the Shock definitely shocked.
Yeah, no,
did.
I think they had so much better looks overall, so I'm very excited for the regular season when they're, you know, back in the States. But I mean, this match, you know, we have to give credit to Houston Outlaws. Of course, there were some Houstonable moments, like Zoe mentioned, but you know, everyone on their team, they looked fantastic overall, and especially their backline, like Shu is just a crazy Ana player, and of course Violet as well. I think Rich and Kenobi mentioned that he's like the Swiss Army knife of Houston Outlaws, and I 100% agree, because he's, you know, he's so versatile. He could play so many heroes to allow his teammates to, you know, flex onto different things as well.
Yeah, no, that backline is scary, and we have one half of that backline joining us for a post-game interview. So Danny, please take it away.
Thank you, Zoe. All right, for the post-match interview, we have Shu. I kind of PTSD because our last time interview didn't work. Hey, I hear him. 들리시나요?
Unlucky. 네, 들려요 이제.
Unlucky. 들리시죠? All right. Finally, he could hear us. Right. So, Shu, congratulations on that win. You know, it was a hard-fought battle. This match went the distance. You know, all the way to the very last round. What gave you guys the edge against the San Francisco Shock today? 자, 일단 드디어 인터뷰를 하게 돼서 너무 반갑고요, 슈 선수. 오늘 경기 진짜 끝까지 간 것 같습니다. 정말 팽팽한 접전이었는데 오늘 센쇼과의 경기에서 좀 어떻게 해서 승리를 이루시게 되신 것 같으신가요?
솔직히 최소 이제 3대1로 이겨야 된다고 생각했는데 저희가 실수를 좀 해가지고 좀 힘들게 이겼던 것 같아요. 근데 원래 좀 더 쉽게 이겼어야 되는 경기라고 생각하는데 상대가 생각 외로 좀 잘한 것도 있고 네, 그런 것 같아요.
All right. Honestly, you know, coming into today's series, we thought it was going to be sort of an easier victory for the Houston Outlaws. We expected it to be a 3-1 victory, but you know, there were some mistakes that we made. And also, also San Francisco Shock played a lot better than we expected. So because of those two reasons, it was sort of a more difficult than we had expected it to be. All right. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you guys still did get the win, and you guys are moving up to the semifinals. And that match is gonna be, you guys will be facing off against either Gladiators or the Atlanta Reign. I just want to hear from you. Like, who do you think is gonna move on and be your opponents for the semifinals? 자, 마지막 질문으로 이제 오늘 그렇게 힘들게 이기셔도 마지막 승자는 우리 휴스턴 팀이기 때문에 다음 경기에서는 아틀란타 아니면 글래디와의 경기가 있을 텐데요. 슈 선수가 보셨을 때는 그 두 팀 중에서 어떤 팀이 이겨서 내일 만나시게 되실 것 같으신가요?
저는 솔직히 반반이라고 생각하고 둘 다 잘하는 팀이라고 생각하는데 저는 글래디가 올라와서 글래디랑 경기를 했으면 좋겠어요.
이유가 있을까요? 왜 글래디가 올라와서 경기를 하고 싶으신지?
일단 그 호주 코치들한테 이제 이기고 나서 이제 이지를 한번 쳐주고 싶어서 이기고 나서 전체 채팅으로 네. 그럼 이제 좋아 죽을 것 같아요.
꼭 기대.
글래디 코치.
알겠습니다. 꼭 기대하도록 하겠습니다. Alright, so Shu says that, I expect it to be a very close match between the Atlanta Reign and the Gladiators. I expect it to be sort of 50-50% chance for both sides, but I do personally want the Gladiators to win because just so that, if we face off against them tomorrow for the semifinals, I could tell the Australian coaches from the Gladiators that we want, after we win, I could just type easy to the Australian coaches on the Gladiators side and show that, to prove my dominance over them. And I would honestly feel very happy with that. All right, Shu, I'm going to end the interview over with this. Thank you so much for your time. And again, big congratulations on the win. 자, 내일 이지를 꼭 기대하면서 마지막으로 인사하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Shu. Congratulations to him and the team. And you know what?
Easy.
I want that for him. I would love that for him. So
he really wants it.
Yeah, now I low-key have to root for the Gladiators because I want to give Shu that opportunity. It's got to be very satisfying. That's what we're all about, satisfaction. Speaking of which, I got a special treat for you after this lovely interview. And that's right. You know what people love? Shu, but what they also love, tokens. So all you have to do now is scan the QR code on the screen very quickly, fill out the details for a chance to claim your token offer. Mysterious.
Can we get it too?
Yes, all you have to do is scan the QR code. You missed it. Too slow. But maybe it will pop up again. Who knows? We'll see. Okay. Either way, good luck to everyone doing that at home. Now we are getting ready and setting up for our next match. In fact, the last match of the day. We had 3 quarterfinals already happening, and some upsets in there too, I dare say. Gladiators will now face up against the Atlanta Reign. Everything is possible in the world of Overwatch. That's what I learned today. Gladiators coming in with a 3-1 score. What was our takeaway from Gladiators' group stage?
I think for the Gladiators, a lot of questions were surrounding the team about, how much do we buy into the scrim books that are floating around? And I think that for the most part, they were able to put those rumors to rest. Dante at the helm here, backed up by this all-star duo of Kevster and Kai. You also have Funny Astro and one of the newer inclusions onto the support lineup of Babel. And they've been able to do some amazing things together on this team. I feel like you saw a lot of fantastic moments where Dante's been able to pull out the Ramatra, really been able to bring that Ramatra